Millionaire invited his black ex-wife to his wedding as a joke. She arrived like a diva. The main hall of the Whitmore Resort in the Hamptons erupted in malicious laughter when Zara Johnson descended the marble staircase wearing a dress that cost more than the annual salary of most of the people present. It wasn't laughter of admiration. It was pure cruel mockery. "Look who decided to show up," Marcus Williams whispered to his guests, raising his glass of Dom Perignon champagne. "Our dear ex-wife." Zara was 35 years old and never imagined that one day she would step into that hall as a guest, even if it was a joke. For 3 years she had been invisible, always silent, watching those rich people treat each other with rehearsed falsehoods while treating her like furniture. The invitation had arrived 5 days earlier, delivered with a cruel smile she knew all too well. "Wedding on Saturday," Marcus said, handing her the golden envelope. "Dress code, maximum elegance. You surely have something suitable in your wardrobe, don't you?" Her friends' laughter echoed down the hallway. It was an obvious trap, an attempt to humiliate her publicly, to put her in her place in front of New York high society. Marcus had even invited social reporters to document what he called an educational moment. "Let's make a bet," Marcus said to his fiancée Ashley Blake as Zara vacuumed the day before. $100,000. She doesn't have the guts to show up. And if she does, she'll be the entertainment for the evening. Ashley laughed maliciously. "You're terrible, Marcus. The poor thing will probably show up in something borrowed and feel so out of place she'll leave within 15 minutes. But Marcus Williams didn't know two fundamental things about Zara Johnson. First, she had grown up in salons like that long before she had to humiliate herself to survive. Second, some storms don't destroy you. They just teach you to dance in the rain. As she walked through the hall under mocking glances, Zara kept her posture straight and her gaze serene, like someone carrying secrets that could turn that world upside down. Her steps were sure, calculated, as if each movement were part of a long-rehearsed choreography. "My God, she really came," whispered Patricia Weston, wife of a senator, to her friend. "And look at how she's dressed. Where did she get that dress? She probably rented it and will pay for it in 10 installments." "How pathetic," replied Vivian Chambers, daughter of an oil tycoon, trying to disguise her own insecurity with cruelty. What none of those people knew was that Zara hadn't bought, borrowed, or rented that dress. She had simply gone back to her own past to find it. A past that Marcus would do anything to erase if he knew it existed. Marcus approached her, his chest puffed out with arrogance, surrounded by his billionaire friends. His confidence was sky-high. After all, he had orchestrated this as a public display of power and social control. "Zara, what a pleasant surprise. I never doubted you would come. After all, when a person like you receives an invitation to an event like this." "A person like me?" Zara repeated, her calm voice cutting through the air like sharp silk. "Go on, Marcus. Finish your sentence." For a microscopic moment, something in her tone made Marcus hesitate. There was a firmness there that didn't match the submissive woman he knew from the corridors of life. But arrogance quickly took over again. "Well, you know, someone who doesn't normally frequent this kind of environment. You must be feeling quite intimidated by all this elegance." Zara smiled. Not a submissive or nervous smile, but something dangerously serene that made some nearby guests stop laughing instinctively. "Intimidated?" she repeated softly, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made Marcus take a step back without realizing it. "No, Marcus. I'm feeling exactly where I've always belonged." The silence that followed lasted only a few seconds, but it was enough for the atmosphere of the party to change completely. There was something about the way Zara spoke, the way she moved, the way she occupied the space, that defied all the expectations those people had about who she was supposed to be. Marcus cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Well, I hope you enjoy the evening. I'm sure it will be educational for you." "Oh, I'm sure it will be educational for all of us," Zara replied, her gaze slowly sweeping over the group of guests as if cataloging each face for future use. If you're enjoying this story of twists and justice, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what those privileged people didn't know was that Zara carried with her a secret so explosive that it would turn that night of planned humiliation into the greatest lesson on prejudice and underestimating people that the Hamptons had ever witnessed. Marcus was having more fun than he had imagined. Zara hadn't run away in shame as he had expected. She remained there, with that strangely confident posture that was beginning to bother him in an inexplicable way. Everyone, Marcus announced loudly, tapping a silver spoon against his crystal glass to get the attention of all the guests. I'd like to introduce our special guest tonight. Zara, our devoted ex-wife. Laughter echoed through the hall like cruel waves. Cell phone flashes began to flash as socialites took photos to post on their social media accounts with sarcastic captions. Marcus, Ashley whispered beside him, feigning concern. Don't you think you're being a little cruel? Cruel. Marcus laughed loudly. I'm giving her the opportunity of a lifetime. When else would someone like her ever get the chance to attend an event like this? Zara stood motionless in the center of the room, all eyes fixed on her. But instead of the embarrassment they expected to see, there was something disconcerting about her expression, a serenity that seemed to come from someone who had weathered far worse storms. Patricia Weston approached with her group of friends, all wearing poisonous smiles. Zara dear, tell me, how long did it take you to choose that dress? It must have been so challenging to find something suitable. Actually, Zara replied with a calmness that made Patricia hesitate, this dress has a very special history. It belonged to my mother. Your mother? Vivian Chambers laughed unpleasantly. And where did your mother get a dress like that? At some fancy thrift store. Zara smiled. But there was something dangerous about that smile. My mother wore this dress the last time she was in a ballroom like this. That was 20 years ago, when she was still Zara Johnson Williams. The silence that followed was deafening. Some people stopped talking, realizing that something important was being said. Marcus, who had been laughing with his close friends, turned slowly. What did you say? Johnson Williams, Zara repeated, her voice cutting through the air like a sharp blade. It's funny how some people choose to conveniently forget their own family history. Marcus's face began to pale. Ashley instinctively grabbed her husband's arm, sensing that something was terribly wrong. You're delusional, Marcus said. But his voice came out less firm than he intended. I don't know what game you're playing, but... This isn't a game, Marcus. Zara took a step toward him, and several guests instinctively backed away. It's history. Our history. The history you tried to erase when you decided it was more convenient to pretend that certain people in our family never existed. The cell phone cameras continued to record, but now for a completely different reason. Whispers began to spread through the room like wildfire. Helena pulled Marcus by the arm. What is she talking about? She's lying, Marcus replied, but his hands were shaking slightly. She's an unbalanced employee trying to get attention. Zara opened her small purse and took out an object that made several guests gasp. It was a ring, not just any ring, but the traditional Williams family engagement ring, engraved with a family crest and featuring the distinctive blue sapphire that had been passed down for generations. This ring, Zara said, holding it up for all to see, was given to my mother by her husband, Marcus Williams Sr., my father-in-law, the man you told your children died without an heir. Marcus was now visibly shaken. Where did you get this? How dare you steal? Steal. Zara laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. Marcus, you can't steal something that is yours by birthright. Patricia Weston, who had been watching with her mouth open, whispered to her friend, My God, do you think she's telling the truth? Impossible, Vivian murmured, but her voice no longer sounded so confident. Marcus would have told us if he had an ex-wife with rights. Zara heard the whisper and turned to them. Ex-wife? No, my dears. I'm not just Marcus's ex-wife. She paused dramatically, looking directly at Marcus. I am the rightful heir to Williams Enterprises. The room exploded in murmurs and muffled exclamations. Marcus looked as if he had been struck by lightning. That's ridiculous, he shouted, but his voice cracked. My father would never. You're making this up. Marcus Williams Sr. built a billion-dollar company, Zara continued relentlessly. When he died, you took over everything and kicked me out of the company I helped build. You cut off my access to funds, sold the house your father bought for me, and left me in absolute poverty. I had no obligation to, Marcus began. But Zara cut him off. You had no obligation to take care of your own father's wife? Interesting philosophy, considering you inherited 100% of a fortune that should have been divided between us. The weight of Zara's words was slowly sinking into the minds of the guests. Several began to move away from Marcus as if physical proximity might contaminate them with scandal. Prove it, Marcus said desperately. Anyone can make up a story and come up with a ring. Zara smiled again, and this time there was something predatory in her expression. Oh, Marcus, do you really think I came here without proof? She took her phone and motioned to someone near the entrance. They can come in now. Each new humiliation of Marcus only fueled something inside Zara that he couldn't understand. A silent force that grew in direct proportion to the injustice he tried to impose. What those privileged people didn't know was that every act of contempt was writing their own sentence. And Zara had spent 3 years learning exactly how to collect every penny of a debt that transcended money. 3 people entered the hall at that moment that would change the lives of everyone present forever. The first was Diana Morrison, Beverly Hills' most respected investigative journalist. The second was David Chun, a lawyer specializing in corporate law. The third made Marcus Williams stagger as if he had been punched in the stomach. Mr. Hamilton, Ashley murmured, recognizing the family's private accountant. What are you doing here? Mr. Hamilton, who had managed Marcus Williams Sr.'s finances during the last years of his life, walked to the center of the room. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. 3 years ago, I was forced to sign false documents transferring assets. Marcus Williams Sr. did not die leaving everything to his son. He had changed his will to include Zara and was about to report Marcus Jr. to the police for embezzling millions from the company when he died suddenly. The hall erupted in muffled cries. Diana Morrison raised her hand. Please keep your phones away. This is an official confession being recorded for legal purposes. Marcus was visibly distraught, sweating. You're crazy, Hamilton. My father died of heart problems. Your father found out you had been embezzling money from the company for years, Mr. Hamilton continued relentlessly. He had changed his will to include Zara and was about to report you to the police when he started showing strange symptoms. Zara remained silent, tears of relief in her eyes. Finally, after 3 years, someone was telling the truth. David Chun opened his briefcase and took out an official document. This blood test was tested last week by an independent laboratory. The arsenic levels were fatal. You're making this up. Marcus shouted, but his voice was completely uncontrolled. It's a conspiracy to ruin me. Diana Morrison stepped forward. Mr. Williams, I have transcripts of 5 conversations you had with Mr. Hamilton between 2020 and 2021, where you threatened to ruin him professionally. Zara finally spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Marcus, you didn't just kill our father. You stole 3 years of my life. I didn't kill anyone. Marcus pointed his finger in all directions. You're all lying. Then explain this, said Zara, connecting her phone to the mansion's sound system. A recording began to play. Marcus' voice was unmistakable. Hamilton, you're going to keep your mouth shut about anything strange you found in the old man's blood. If you open your mouth, I guarantee you'll never work as an accountant again. And as for that woman and her bastard, they'll have to fend for themselves. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the people who had defended Marcus now avoided him as if he were radioactive. Ashley looked at her husband in horror. Marcus, did you really do that? 3 years, Zara shouted, her composure breaking momentarily. 3 years cleaning my father's blood off the hands of his killer. Zara took a deep breath and regained her deadly calm. You want to know how I got all this evidence? I didn't come to work here by accident. I applied specifically for this position. I spent 3 years preparing, gaining access to the business, gathering evidence. Marcus tried one last desperate move. Even if all that is true, it doesn't change anything. The inheritance was distributed years ago. David Chun smiled for the first time. Actually, Mr. Williams, when there is evidence of murder, all assets can be redistributed according to the original will. And we have a copy of Marcus Williams Sr.'s actual will. Zara approached Marcus, who was leaning against the wall like a cornered animal. Do you know what my biggest mistake was, Marcus? It was believing that you would change on your own. Please, Marcus whispered. All arrogance had evaporated. Ashley, the children, this will destroy our family. You destroyed our family the moment you chose money over justice. Marcus collapsed into an armchair, completely defeated. His transformation from arrogant millionaire to exposed criminal had taken less than 2 hours. Zara looked at Marcus one last time. He was broken. But this was only the beginning. What Marcus didn't realize, and would discover in the worst possible way in the next few hours, was that Zara had spent years gathering evidence not only about his father's death, but about all the financial crimes, blackmail, and corruption he had committed over the decades, weaving a web of justice so meticulous that his downfall would be spectacularly complete. The next 2 hours turned the most exclusive wedding in the Hamptons into the biggest scandal California high society had ever witnessed live. Marcus was now sitting on the floor of the ballroom, leaning against the wall, watching his entire life unravel in real time. Diana Morrison had connected her laptop to the mansion's projection system, and documents, photos, and recordings appeared on the giant screen for all the guests to see. "This is a bank transfer of $200,000 from Marcus Williams' personal account to Mr. Hamilton, dated 3 days after the death of Marcus Williams Sr., Diana narrated as the image appeared on the screen. The transfer memo reads, "Silence is golden." Ashley was now on the other side of the hall, as far away from her husband as possible, crying silently as she processed 3 years of lies. "And this," Diana continued, "is a recording of Marcus talking to his accountant about how to hide the embezzlement from the company." Marcus' voice echoed through the hall. "I need you to make the numbers dance. If anyone finds out I've taken $20 million over the last 5 years, I'm ruined. Blame market fluctuations, expansion costs, anything." Patricia Weston whispered to her friend, "My God, he stole from his own company." Zara remained in the center of the room, calm as the eye of a hurricane, watching each revelation systematically destroy the life of the man who had murdered her father. David Chun approached with a new folder. "Mr. Williams, in addition to the criminal charges, I must inform you that Ms. Johnson is filing a $50 million civil suit against you for wrongful death and misappropriation of inheritance." $50 million? Marcus looked up with glazed eyes. "I don't have $50 million. "No," Zara said softly. "But your company is worth $120 million, and half of it has always been mine by right." Diana Morrison continued the devastating presentation. "We also have evidence that Marcus blackmailed at least 5 local politicians, bribed 3 judges, and diverted charity funds to personal accounts." Each new revelation drew gasps of horror from the guests. People who had arrived as Marcus's friends now moved away as if he were radioactive. "Zara," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Please, you got what you wanted. Stop this." Zara stepped forward and knelt in front of him, looking directly into his eyes. "Marcus, you killed our father. You stole my family, my inheritance, my dignity. You made me clean his blood off your hands for 3 years. I can make it up to you," he whispered desperately. "There's no making up for 3 years of injustice," Zara replied calmly. "But there are consequences." Ashley's phone rang. It was one of her friends calling from college. "Ashley, are you okay? Are they saying on the internet that Marcus is a murderer?" Ashley looked at Marcus with utter disgust. "Your own children are finding out what kind of monster you are on social media." Marcus tried to stand up, but his legs gave way. "Ashley, please. The children." "No," Ashley shouted, silencing the entire room. "You don't mention our children. You've shamed them forever." Mr. Hamilton approached Zara. "Miss Johnson, I must inform you that I have already contacted the police. Marcus will be arrested today for murder." Zara asked, "Murder, fraud, blackmail, tax evasion. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison." Zara turned to the guests, who watched her with a mixture of admiration and terror. "I want everyone to understand one thing. I didn't do this for revenge. I did this for justice. For all the people who have been trampled on by men like Marcus Williams." Patricia Weston approached hesitantly. "Zara, we're so sorry. We didn't know." "You knew I was treated like a subhuman," Zara replied firmly. "You laughed. You participated. The only difference is that now you know I have more money than you." The sound of sirens began to echo from outside. The police had arrived. Marcus looked at Zara one last time. "You destroyed my life." "No," Zara said, standing up with all her dignity. "You destroyed your own life the moment you chose evil. I just brought the truth to light." As the police officers entered to arrest Marcus, Zara stepped out onto the balcony. Outside, Dozens of reporters were waiting. TV cameras, photographers, journalists. The story had already spread. Ashley approached her on the balcony. "Zara, I really didn't know anything." "I know," Zara said gently. "You were also a victim of his. What's going to happen now?" Zara looked out at the city sparkling below. "Now, Ashley, justice will finally be served. And maybe the Hamptons will learn that class has nothing to do with your bank account." As Marcus was led away in handcuffs by the police, passing through the same hall where he had tried to humiliate her hours earlier, Zara felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years: peace. What Marcus would discover in the next few hours in jail was that Zara had planned every detail not only of his downfall, but also of the complete reconstruction of her own life. And that the Williams empire now had a new heir who would make sure to use that power to protect exactly the kind of people he used to walk all over. 6 months later, Zara Johnson Williams was sitting in Marcus's old office, now completely renovated. The walls that once displayed trophies of arrogance now showed certificates from social projects and photos of employees promoted from entry-level positions to executive roles. Marcus had been sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The charges included murder, corporate fraud, blackmail, and tax evasion. His personal fortune was completely confiscated to cover compensation to the victims. Zara was just one of the many people he had harmed over the years. "Miss Johnson Williams," said Amanda, his new executive assistant, who had previously worked as a cleaner in the building. "Forbes magazine is here for the interview about the company's transformation." Zara smiled. In 6 months, she had increased the company's profits by 40% simply by treating employees like human beings. Fair wages, promotions based on actual merit, and a respectful work environment had created a level of productivity that Marcus had never achieved with his toxic leadership. Ashley had divorced him immediately and moved to another state with their children. Before she left, she sought out Zara to apologize in person. "You could have destroyed us completely, but you chose to protect my children. I will never forget your generosity." "Children don't pay for their parents' sins," Zara had replied. "They deserve the chance to be better people than he was." Mr. Hamilton now worked as a medical consultant for the company, offering free care to all employees. "I never thought I'd have the courage to do the right thing," he told Zara during a meeting. "You taught me that it's never too late to find our dignity." Patricia Weston and Vivian Chambers had tried to contact Zara in the weeks following the scandal, but she kept them at a polite distance. "You laughed at me when you saw me as inferior. Now you want my friendship because you found out about my bank account. That says everything about you." Zara's story had gone viral worldwide. She received invitations to speak at universities about leadership and social justice, but she preferred to focus on the real work. "I don't want to be famous for suffering," she explained in a rare interview. "I want to be known for what I built afterwards." The company now sponsored scholarships for employees' children, a microcredit program for entrepreneurs in underserved communities, and had created the largest domestic violence support fund in California. On a quiet afternoon, Zara received a letter from prison. It was from Marcus. "Zara, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know that you taught me that the person I became was a monster. I spend every day trying to understand how I became someone capable of killing his own father for money. Your children asked about you during their last visit. They want to meet the aunt who protected the family when their father failed." Zara kept the letter without responding. Forgiveness was a personal journey, but justice had already been served. During the interview with Forbes, the journalist asked, "Some people say your revenge was very cruel. What do you say to that?" "Revenge would have been to do to him what he did to me," Zara replied calmly. "Justice is ensuring that he pays for the crimes he committed and that other people don't suffer what I suffered. There's a fundamental difference between the two." "And what advice would you give to people facing similar injustices?" Zara looked out the window, watching employees having lunch in the garden of the company that now offered them respect and dignity. "The best revenge is not to destroy those who hurt you. It is to build something so great that the injustice you suffered becomes just the first chapter in a story of triumph." That night, Zara returned home, no longer to the small apartment where she had nurtured her dreams of justice, but to a comfortable house where she had adopted 2 orphan children who, like her, needed a second chance at life. As she helped the girls with their homework, she thought of the father she had never really known, but whose blood ran through her veins. Marcus Williams Sr. would have been proud to see that his daughter had not only reclaimed what was stolen from her, but had turned a company built on exploitation into a symbol of opportunity and dignity. Zara's real victory wasn't dethroning Marcus. It was proving that when you build power based on justice instead of fear, that power multiplies and benefits everyone around you. Marcus tried to humiliate an ex-wife and ended up discovering that he had underestimated an heiress. More importantly, he discovered that dignity cannot be bought, inherited, or stolen. It is earned through the choices we make when no one is looking. If this story of justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that good always wins when you have the right strategy, and that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone has chosen to ignore.